You're listening to Play Transform Better. This is where we help business leaders navigate transformation, technology, and change at scale. In today's executive shift, we'll explore how silos are slowing down your strategy and what to do when alignment feels out of reach. Now, let's join your hosts.
As a leader, have you ever had that feeling where your individual teams are doing great work individually, hitting milestones, showing real talent?
Oh, absolutely. They're hitting targets. Things look good on paper. Lots of green check marks.
Right. But the whole organization just feels, stuck.
Yeah.
Like you can't quite get the real momentum going. Big picture stuff stalls.
Yeah. That organizational drag, that feeling of spinning wheels even with high performers, that often points right to, a really common issue, organizational silos.
Silos, exactly. And we're diving into that today, aren't we? How these separate units.
Departments, teams, basically operating in their own little worlds, limited communication, maybe even pulling in slightly different directions with their own objectives.
And it's not just about operations slowing down, is it? It actually causes this paralysis right at the executive level. It hinders your ability to actually steer the ship.
Completely. These invisible walls, they don't just inconvenience people. They can genuinely freeze up your ability to implement a unified strategy.
It's like having these high-performing islands, but no bridges.
Yeah.
Right? So nothing really flows between them effectively. Resources, ideas, anything. The whole ecosystem suffers.
And to really get a handle on how this hits leadership, let's maybe make this concrete. Take a story like Emily, CEO at a place, let's call it Synergy Corp, a tech firm, lots of potential.
Okay, Synergy Corp. And Emily, she sounds like the kind of leader with a clear vision.
Totally. Her big idea was integrating the company's software and hardware for this, absolutely seamless customer experience, really revolutionize things.
Sounds great on paper. A really powerful strategy.
It is. But those silos we mentioned, they became a huge roadblock for her, even with that strong vision.
So what did that look like at Synergy Corp? What were the divisions?
So at Synergy Corp, you basically had three main groups: software development, hardware manufacturing, and customer service.
Right. A pretty standard setup for a tech company.
And each was good in its own area, successful even within their own boundaries.
But how successful, really, if they weren't talking to each other effectively?
Well, that's exactly the problem. Take the software team, brilliant people, creating innovative stuff, meeting their internal deadlines.
But maybe not checking in enough with the hardware folks. Or understanding their constraints.
Exactly. So you get these new software releases that, they weren't always fully compatible with the existing hardware, or maybe they required hardware specs that weren't feasible.
Oh, boy. Glitches, user frustration. Yeah, I can absolutely see that happening. Leads to frantic workarounds, too, I bet.
You got it. And it's not just minor annoyances. These kinds of disconnects can seriously tick off customers, maybe even lose you business. It's like that leaky bucket idea. Teams are pouring effort in, but the silo gaps let it all drain out.
And then customer service. They're usually the ones on the front line, right?
Precisely. They're catching all the heat from those frustrated users. And often, they were left trying to solve problems without the full picture.
They probably didn't even know why the product was suddenly buggy or why a feature wasn't working as expected.
Right. Maybe they weren't fully briefed on the latest changes or the underlying reasons for the compatibility mess, so their ability to actually help was compromised.
Which just makes customers even angrier and really dings the company's reputation. So Emily's vision of seamless, not so seamless in reality.
Not at all. Each team was functioning, sure, but that core vision, it was seriously suffering because of these internal divides.
And this is where that executive paralysis starts creeping in for Emily, She has this clear goal.
This crystal clear picture of integrated tech, smooth experience. But every time she tried to push for it, she hit resistance.
From the divisions.
Each division had its own roadmap, its own priorities, its own way of doing things that just wasn't aligned with her big picture goal.
Ugh. Competing priorities, essentially born out of those silos.
Yeah.
It's not that they're wrong priorities necessarily for their specific team.
But the lack of alignment becomes the massive problem. How do you even tackle that when things are so entrenched?
It's fascinating, isn't it? The software team might be chasing cutting-edge features. Hardware's focused on cost.
And customer service is just trying to keep the lid on things. Emily found herself constantly negotiating, trying to persuade, almost forcing people to collaborate.
That sounds exhausting. Like a constant uphill battle.
Totally. Her energy, which should have been focused on strategic growth, market opportunities, It was getting sucked into managing internal friction instead.
I can only imagine the emotional toll that takes. Starting out with all that energy and vision, then feeling,
Mm.
what, frustrated,
No,
powerless.
I think those are exactly the words. Instead of shaping the future, she's constantly dealing with the fallout, the product delays, the customer complaints piling up, the internal squabbles.
So she's reacting, not
Hmm.
proactively leading, spending her days on damage control.
That's the absolute core of the paralysis. Her ability to drive that unified strategy, the main reason she's in the job, was just fundamentally undermined by these barriers. The organization was dictating her agenda.
Leaving her feeling stuck, ineffective.
Yeah.
Yeah, paralyzed. Okay, so how does she get unstuck? How did Synergy Corp begin to break free from this cycle?
Well, the insights we gathered really point towards, perhaps unsurprisingly, the vital role of communication. It sounds simple, maybe, but it's the foundation.
It's never just communication, though, is it? It's about how you communicate, fixing the flow deliberately.
Exactly right. Silos thrive where information gets trapped, where teams don't understand what their colleagues are up against, their goals, their progress. Misalignment, even mistrust, can fester there.
So you have to consciously, intentionally build those bridges. It's not just about sending more memos.
Absolutely. Though it's fair to say other things matter too, like are incentives aligned? Does the org structure itself maybe need a tweak? But communication is where you have to start. It lays the groundwork.
And that's what Emily zeroed in on at Synergy Corp, a deliberate effort to foster that connection.
Precisely. One of the really key things she put in place was a weekly leadership forum.
Okay, a meeting. We all love meetings.
Huh. Well, this wasn't just another status update treadmill. It was dedicated time, a specific space for the heads of software, hardware, customer service to openly discuss their goals, yes, but also their challenges. And crucially,
How they can help each other, find synergies.
exactly, mutual support. Where are the overlaps? Where are the potential conflicts we can solve before they blow up?
So it's about that intentionality,
Yeah.
creating a regular rhythm for dialogue, a structure where people actually listen and understand different perspectives.
It helps build empathy. Starts breaking down that us versus them thing that silos feed on.
Makes sense. Was there anything else beyond the leadership meetings?
Yeah, she also pushed for more transparency across the board. They brought in a company-wide project management system.
Okay, a tool, but more than just logistics, I assume.
Oh, much more. Its
Yeah.
impact on silos was huge. Suddenly, everyone had a clear line of sight.
To what other teams were working on.
Exactly. And how their own work fit into the bigger strategy, where the dependencies were, where potential roadblocks might pop up before they happened.
That visibility is just, yeah, it's critical. It changes projects from being isolated tasks into pieces of a bigger puzzle.
Right. People start to see how their work affects others, relies on others. It fosters that shared purpose and encourages people to actually talk to each other proactively.
Instead of waiting for things to go wrong, it shifts the focus from my team's success to our success.
Precisely. And the results at Synergy Corp? Pretty transformative, actually.
How so?
Yeah.
Did the collaboration actually improve?
It really did.
Huh.
As software and hardware started talking regularly, understanding each other's worlds, those painful compatibility issues started to really decrease.
So fewer glitches.
Way fewer. They even started co-designing some things, finally making that seamless experience Emily dreamed of a reality. And guess what?
Customers noticed.
Customers noticed. They appreciated it.
And what about customer service? Did things get easier for them?
Definitely. Because they were kept in the loop consistently about updates, potential snags, they could give much better support, more informed, more effective.
Which feeds back into customer satisfaction, loyalty,
Yeah.
a positive cycle instead of a negative one.
You got it. Those walls were coming down, replaced by a more fluid, collaborative way of operating.
And for Emily personally, that feeling of paralysis, did it finally start to lift?
Massively. The constant firefighting began to fade. The resistance to her integration plans softened as teams saw the actual benefits of working together.
So she could actually lead again, strategically.
Yes. Guide the company, guide the now aligned leadership team towards that original vision with renewed energy, That heavy frustration was replaced by real momentum, a shared sense of purpose.
Wow. So the story of Emily and Synergy Corp really drives it home, doesn't it? Silos genuinely can equal executive paralysis.
Absolutely. It just underscores that fundamental truth. These internal divisions don't just slow things down operationally, they can fundamentally cripple your ability to lead. That stuck feeling. Often it's a direct result of these disconnects.
Yeah, it really hammers home that breaking down those silos, prioritizing communication, building a truly collaborative culture, it isn't just a nice to have. It's essential for effective leadership.
It truly is. Because when your teams are aligned, working together, communicating openly, that's when your potential as a leader is unlocked. You stop fighting internal friction.
And start guiding a unified force. So the big takeaway seems to be, individual team wins are great. They're necessary, but they're not enough on their own.
Without breaking down those silos, those wins just don't add up to the overall momentum you need to hit those big strategic goals.
So for everyone listening, maybe take a moment, right?
Yeah, reflect on your own organization. Where might those invisible walls exist, even if they're subtle?
And maybe ask, what deliberate steps could you take to foster more communication, more transparency, more collaboration across those lines?
And here's a final thought. Perhaps that feeling of paralysis, if you're experiencing it, isn't solely a reflection of your own capabilities.
Maybe it's more systemic, a product of those invisible walls.
Exactly. Walls that, with focused effort, with intentional strategies around connection and communication, they actually can be dismantled.
Imagine the power that could be unleashed if your whole organization was truly pulling in the same direction, operating as one entity.
Something to think about.